go, he goes the opposite direction.
Yeah, should be right. Just let me steer him around here. Oh, he's off again. Yeah, just ease on the oars now. I think I can handle him. Yeah, Spaniard. Ooh, he's just taken off. It's a big barracuda, Vic.
Ha!
This is Gould's sand goanna. He lives in a part of the world which, like him, has hardly changed in 10,000 years. He lives, in fact, in the midst of a paradise, a newly discovered fishing paradise that surrounds this island.
It may only be a 1,200-foot journey, but it sure is uphill all the way. But what a beautiful view. Isn't that something else? I knew there had to be a reward in this somewhere. It should be even better from the very top. This is the highest point on Lizard Island. The first white man to climb up here was Captain James Cook, the man who claimed the Australian continent for the British Crown over 200 years ago. Cook came up here because he was in trouble. He was looking for a way out for his ship, the Endeavour, from behind what we now call the Great Barrier Reef. And he found his gap in the reef over there at the northern end of a reef he named Carter. You can't see much of it today because there's too much haze in the air. In fact, it was a day like this when Captain Cook came up here, and he was forced to camp overnight with Joseph Banks until the air cleared and he could see his gap in the reef. Captain Cook didn't like our reef country much, and you can't blame him because wooden sailing ships and coral reef don't mix very well. Since Cook was here, Lizard Island has seen a number of visitors, of course, but in terms of sport fishing, there hasn't been a lot of exploring done since the days of Captain Cook. And much of that pristine, beautiful fishing paradise down there has yet to be sport fished. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to explore and fish as much of it as we possibly can. And we're going to do it in a little boat called Angmadi with a good mate of mine by the name of Vic Mcrist.
Ever since he was a small boy, Vic Mcrist has been one of fishing's barefoot explorers, an innovator who for 3 decades has led the way for tens of thousands of Australia's anglers. A bushman and one-time hunter, Vic does most of his fishing alone, a quietly independent observer, a conservationist, and one of the fathers of Australia's diverse and spectacular sport fishing. No other individual has had so much influence on Australia's recreational fishermen. Sport fishing in this country owes him much. For nearly 30 years, Vic has been our leading fishing writer, responsible for thousands of practical magazine articles and a number of articulate and authoritative books. Today, Vic thrives on new frontiers and remote horizons. He still loves fishing, but prefers the role of the unhurried explorer. Vic has made 2 exploratory trips to this special country north of Lizard Island before, which makes him the region's most frequent sport fishing visitor and the best of guides. This whole zone is still very much a sport fishing frontier, one of the planet's last. Lizard Island is the springboard of this remarkable area and as a base 135 nautical miles north of Cairns remains largely virgin. Tourism has been here only since 1975. Beyond Lizard, small island groups like the Turtles, the Petheridge Group and the Howicks have yet to be fully investigated. The only way in is by boat, and you would need months even to visit the labyrinth of sand cays, islets and countless areas of shallow reef country which stretch north from here for hundreds of miles. The intriguing thing for me about fishing here is when that reel screams, the fish hooked up could be almost anything.
Did you see him? No. Ooh, he's just taken off. Yeah, just about got colour, Vic. Looks like a good Spaniard or something like one. Scaly mackerel, Vic. Let's get him up here.
It's almost like a rainbow run with the lower colour on the side.
Oh, yeah. They're good on colours. Yeah, it looks like he's only hooked in the mouth there. I'll see if I can get rid of that for him. Yeah, just hold still. That's a scaly mackerel, and he's one of the fish with about 3 common names. His formal common name is large-scale tuna. As well as being called a scaly mackerel, he's called a shark mackerel because the flesh has a faint ammonia shark smell when you cut into it. They're a pretty fish, not so hot to eat, but good sport to catch on light tackle. Anyway, we'll let this bloke go before he gets any drowsier.
Vic's boat is a perfect craft for the pair of us to work from. Not only a living base, but with a cruising speed of about 6 knots, when we move, we can troll a lure or two out the back. So in fact, we're fishing all the time.
Looks a beautiful place.
Well, it is. We can get in fairly close on this point, and you can see the system here on this end. It's beautiful wading and casting. You know,
Looks like it's got a little bit of everything.
Our first destination, a small group of sand cays, flat shallows and beautiful coral reef, is an area very seldom fished and a long way from anything approaching pollution.
seems to be coming alive.
Woo-hoo! There's a whole mess of little barracudas here, Vic. That's handy, having them release themselves like that right at your feet. Yeah, let's see if I can hook another one of those little blokes. Oh, straight on. It's like having fish in your own bathtub, this situation. Yeah, he's got it right down his mouth, which isn't very convenient of him. Gotcha. What we've got here is the perfect shore-based fishery. We're just wandering along the edge of this sand cay here and fishing what is essentially a fish nursery. These flats and shallow coral platforms here are where the juvenile fish do their feeding. And as the tide comes in, things like juvenile barracuda, small trevally, dart, and a host of other small fish swarm over these flats, and they're just suckers for little lures cast to them. Little trevallies. Sure don't hang around for long when you let them go. They just go pew, straight back to where they came from. Probably wondering what on earth all that was about.
Sandcay country is only one facet of this region's diverse geography that keeps bringing Vic back to places like this.
Yes, I like the variety, the tremendous variety. Nowhere else that I've ever been, here or overseas, do you get the variety that you get here. Everything from mullet to marlin within a few miles of lizard, and you've got the rainforest streams on the coast, access to the Gulf. These times I find that my attitude to fishing is much more relaxed than it used to be. I'm not out to catch a lot of fish or anything like that. But I certainly am interested in being where they are. You got my lure.
This is Eagle Islet, the biggest of a group of 4 cays. There are hundreds of sand cays throughout the reef system, but none of them are really stable islands. They're simply moving piles of finely ground coral rubble that form at random spots on the limestone reefs. Tides and currents are forever building, shifting and destroying the cays. Some last for decades, some only for weeks.
That's it for the small side of the island anyway.
Yeah, they seem to be fairly regularly small fish, juvenile fish all the time.
Well, you got to expect that, except every once in a while they do get a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
But I figure we can work this far end.
Yeah.
On the deep channel.
Gee, it looks good too, that channel between the little cay on the end.
Well, it's a whole, if you have a look at it, it's a real entry onto the whole reef.
Can we fish it from the shore, or is it a wading probability or not?
It's a probability. It wouldn't be very comfortable.
Yeah.
We can cover it better out of the dinghy, I think.
A boat is very important to northern sport fishermen, not just for getting to places, but for fishing from. 90% of our sport fishing up here is done from boats. It's a fascinating experience to quietly drift over crystal water like this, casting lures.
He's only small, Vic. I think.
If you insist on hooking him in the tail, you've got to expect problems.
Yeah, I think the reason he's doing that is he's acting like a billy lid because I foul hooked him under the fin. Hooked in the middle.
Get him off yourself, huh?
Right. No worries. Just get that out there for you, mate. Right. Yeah, he was in a school of fish. It was so thick that the lure actually foul hooked him instead of him having to bite the lure. And he was competing with it, no doubt, or competing with a dozen of his mates for the lure. This is one of a number of species of trevally that are ever present on these flats. They're always feeding as the tide rises and the water creeps over the flats, and he's only a juvenile. They can grow 60, 70, in excess of 100 pounds, some of the species of trevally. I just hope we don't meet any like that with this tackle in here on the coral. It'll be all over in seconds. Anyway, I'll put this bloke back before he complains anymore. You want to swap over, Vic?
Yeah.
I'll put this down and
do that any
have a
day
go on.
Weather like this.
Have a go on the oars.
I think the whole thing about, say, sport fishing as a philosophy is that the aim is to use it and enjoy it, but not to destroy it. And you can do that, but you have to have some kind of personal discipline, some kind of faith or belief in what you're doing, knowing that you're not going to hurt the reef. And you've got to have enough discipline to let a fish go.
No worries about gaffing him, just let him suck onto your hand. Is it that?
No, I don't know. I've never done it that way.
These waters are that kind of surprise fishing place where your next fish could be a bonefish or a scavenging sucker fish like this one. These beautiful shallows are part of the zone that lies between the outer barrier reef to the east and the mainland coast of Cape York Peninsula. The reefs and sand cays and island groups reach north from here for another 350 nautical miles, at least 4,000 square miles of living tapestry, much of which has never been sport fished. Between here and New Guinea, there are very few people. The coast here is largely unsettled. Agriculture on Cape York non-existent, except for vast cattle stations. A few transient professional fishermen, a few isolated mining settlements. No pollution, none of the damage man can do.